Hello everyone, it's Adam here. I've done a driving video in like 2 years. It's all been riding videos. Um, we are in the Ford Escape. This is a Ford Escape video. Um, so exciting, but it is bike related. I'm taking a bunch of stuff, some suspension and shocks for the beta to my mechanic who's going to reinstall the shocks for me into the fork springs. But let's not get into bikes. I want to do a Ford Escape video. This is the last day I'm driving this car. For those of you who don't know or are recent to the channel, I acquired this car for $800 from my work. It was a mobile mapping van. They used to drive around with the cameras and stuff on it. So this was a mobile mapping van stationed in Texas, so never saw any salt or any winters that we do in the Northeast. And in 3 years, acquired 250,000 miles on the odometer. I think it was 254 when I got it. And for a while now, I've been looking for a winter car because as my Golf R has received tons of aftermarket modifications, the biggest depreciating factor of the Golf R isn't time, it's rust. And I drove it for 2 winters, and we're talking about like, I've already had to replace my rear sway bar links and my rear sway bar from rust. All my OEM bolts on the underside are rusting out, and my shocks, 2 of my rear springs are rusting out. So it's just, the winters up here are really rough. We get salt. The first salt the 2018 was on October 25th, and it's April, I think 8th, 7th or 8th right now, and we have an inch of snow coming tonight, and an inch of snow coming on Monday. So we get. I mean, that's October to April. We have salt on the ground, so it's just really bad for your cars. So the majority of my driving is actually in the winter. So when I found the opportunity to grab a winter beater in this 2015 Ford Escape, I leaped at the offer. So how's it done? Well, it's a shit box. And anyone hear the Ford Escape, I'm sorry, but it's obviously not German. It's not very refined. The automatic gearbox blows. The transmission's on its way out, and as is the motor. It's got pretty good compression still, but it really needs a lot of help. So I've already reached out to a mechanic locally who has agreed to go ahead and price out a rebuilt, like crash motor for me that he's going to get, and he's also going to price out rebuilding the transmission, with basically charging for the core, I think. So that's coming along. I imagine all in it'll be about $4,000. This vehicle itself is worth about $5,000 to $6,000 in good working condition. The motor, I wouldn't sell this to someone with the current motor and transmission, but that's just me. I'm a very picky person, and I wouldn't sell like a shitbox to someone. So even though, right now it's worth more than I put into it, I put about $3,000 total with the purchase price and insurance. So we're talking about new tires, tune-up, fluids, interior detailing, replacing the rear window that was busted out. So $3,000 total I spent on this thing, getting it roadworthy and insured. And then I'm going to spend an extra $4,000 having the new motor put in. Well, not new motor. There's like 1,000 Ford Escape motors on eBay right now, basically. So a new-ish motor, so a motor with about 30,000 miles on it versus 262,000, in addition to the new transmission. So that'll keep this thing running for years, because right now there is 0 rust on this car. It is the body is perfect. The paint was wrapped from day one with our vinyl wrapping. So the vehicle is in great shape. It's still a shit box, but it's in great shape. And if I put a new motor and transmission in there, possibly a new drive shaft, and the new shocks all around, we got a little bit of seepage on the rear passenger shock. It'll be great. So my review of this car, keeping in mind that the transmission and the engine are both kind of on their way out with 250,000 miles on them, I'm happy with it. So it's front-wheel drive, which is way simpler to work on. I obviously, had a lot of issues with snow this year, and just sort of not getting stuck, but just, my Golf R is all-wheel drive. So the front-wheel drive was definitely a learning curve for me. It understeers like crazy. The steering the whole thing floats around like a tank, like a yacht. It's like a boat on wheels. It's just, this is a vehicle that is, in my opinion, it's an economy car, and that's okay, right? I think it was like $18,000 to $20,000 new, and depreciated like crazy with 250,000 miles on it. But you know, it's done its purpose as far as hauling things. You know, I put the seats back flat. If I had a couple of kids, I could see myself driving one of these if I was more practical. But you're not gonna get a review out of me because this thing is just you don't feel connected to the ground. You kind of feel like you're just ugh. And the transmission, even the transmission was in a good condition. I will say that the transmission, you go from reverse to neutral and then to drive, it's like a 10-second delay. The shifts are hard, which actually is a common issue with this without being an old transmission. Transmission of this car is actually only 100,000 miles old, not the 260, because it was replaced at 180,000 miles. Steering, I mean, it's direct-ish, but it does, like, you know, the body roll is just bad. Amenities, I mean, it has sync, but it's not good. I basically pick what I want to play on my iPhone and just put the iPhone down and play. It's buggy. It loses its connection with USB sometimes. When my phone starts ringing, it doesn't show a ringing indicator here until like 10 seconds later. Voice control is completely useless. The cloth seats have absolutely no lumbar or lower back support at all. They are fully manual. There's no power adjustment at all. I kind of sink into it like this. I'm driving this thing for like 100 miles. I just get uncomfortable and have to get out of the car and walk around. So it's not like a road trip car. Fuel economy has been about between 25 and 30 miles per gallon, depending on the week, which is great for wintertime. Because we're on winter gas, so the burn is a little bit it's less efficient in the wintertime because they have some anti-freezing and corrosion agents added. As far as the daily reliability, it always starts. I did keep it on the battery tender for a couple of days when we got below 20 degrees. Sorry, 20 degrees below zero. I threw it on the battery tender. The heat heats up really fast, which I love. The cold gets cold fairly fast, but the heat really is, like, I mean, faster than the Golf R, it gets hot, and faster than the heat is seen on my GS, it gets hot, which is really good. And it does blow you out. I mean, you really need to turn the heat down after like 10 minutes because you're just like dying, and it's 0 degrees outside and you're dying. It's so hot in here. Rear defroster is good. The front windshield wipers are really weak. They can't really do much. They just kind of, if there's any obstruction at all, they just basically stop and air out and kind of click up and down. There's no spring-loaded front hood thing like the VW has, so you have to hold it up in one hand and fix that little lever thing. Seats are just uncomfortable. I mean, honestly, it is a very uncomfortable seating position ergonomically. I've tried every adjustment possible. You know, getting to the buttons and kind of just the way things are laid out just feels like I'm not supposed to be here. This is the truck for aliens. Tow rating sucks. The engine is weak. It's not turbocharged. The dog loves it though. He's got a lot of space back there. He's happy enough. And I've done a few trash days with it and hauled some stuff from Home Depot. No problems there. Overall, I'm okay with this thing. I would never buy one new. Even the newer models with the platinum titanium models trims, you're still dealing with the same shitty motor. Even the turbocharged version is kind of weak. This is it's a car UV. It's a faux UV. It's a fake UV. Whatever you want to call it. It is a car that's high off the ground with a little bit of more head clearance, and that's why I hate it. But I'm also not the kind of person that will buy quote crossovers. I think you either need to buy a hatchback, or you need to buy a truck, or you need to buy a true SUV, which at this point is only the Land Cruiser, the 4Runner, and I think even the friggin' Explorer is like not body on frame anymore. Like they don't make SUVs anymore. They make tall wagons, and so I'm not a tall wagon person. Again, for $800, I'd buy it again. There's actually one more left at the office that they haven't sold yet to employees. I'm probably going to buy it for parts because it's going to be a huge asset to have a parts version of this around in the future. That's my thoughts on the Ford Escape. This is my last day driving. It's going to go into storage, and it's going to stay there until we get our first snow, in which case the Golf R will go back in storage. I will talk more about the motor rebuild and transmission rebuild once that starts, probably sometime in July. Rock on. Thanks for watching. Be safe out there, and don't buy these shitty crossovers. Do yourself a favor. Buy a wagon, buy a truck, or buy a real SUV. Rock on.